Alright, so here's a video I want to make. This is kind of an opportunity. It sort of emphasizes some of the problem I have with a lot of you, even potentially people on my side, but my current side of this thing as far as saying, George Zimmerman. Well, anyway, I perceive, it could just be a bias, but I perceive a lot of people, like there's this guy Dreddyhead that I'm watching that's talking about, he's very reasonable, he's the kind of guy that watches the 3-hour bond hearing live and stuff, and he likes wigs, he's an interesting guy, but he's real smart about this stuff, and he doesn't, seem, he's like going to the truth. I mean, if they found out there was a video of Trayvon punching Zimmerman and banging his head to the thing and all that, we saw it was exactly like that, that would matter to him, I think. I'm not sure about the other side, but that could be a bias. But anyway, it is possible for, evidence to sway me. I'm just going to wait for the evidence. See, I think there's an epistemological error with a lot of you guys where you're like, well, if I say, I Pyrrho, for example, is like, well, that's not very likely. And you're like, well, you're just racked with doubt, Pyrrho, and it's not about what's likely, it's about what is. And so then you will take improbable solutions because you need to find what is, and that's the candidate you've got. So, boom. And it's like, good luck with that. You kind of have to, the way you get to what is, if you would be so lucky, is to keep looking at what seems likely. You keep pouring as you do it. You finally get to some solutions, and after years, it usually becomes one. Less than years. But, I say years because often history even takes, at the end of some case or some big cultural event, there'll be like 3 ways that people looked at it. But in the review of history, some of them will be revealed to have been less factual. So you just, if you keep looking, you don't have time, it takes energy, so you don't have energy to look at them all. And as a culture, when we're looking at cases together, for whatever reason, it's like a proxy for cases like it. Now, the public is looking at this because it was made into this racial aspect. I'm looking into it because I say unarmed minor, busybody wannabe copy dude, equals high threshold of doubt for the excuse when you say it's the kid's fault. In this whole, what I call TSA mentality, which isn't even TSA worker per se, it's anti this idea of if you're wearing shoes, then you're a suspicious person, that you have to do in American airports now. So it's just like a metaphor from that kind of unproductive, invasive security that's not, like some people think that you have to trade this freedom for security kind of thing, and it's like, as long as they're inconveniencing you, it must make you safer. It's like, that's not how it works. As long as it's an expensive machine that makes you nude without taking off your clothes and you feel invaded, we must be safer. Hey, if I'm shooting a hoodie kid, well, they don't all wear hoodie. We'll have kids left over. No. But here's the thing. I was bringing up to Daiwana, man, I was thinking about, I might even have been thinking about it while I was reading over the conservative treehouse, of all things. Because I know they were complaining about it. This toxicology report, the full toxicology report's not been released, and as far as I know, there's not reasons given, and there's certain deadlines. Now, I don't think that they violated the deadlines. Daiwana man's like, that's shady. No, I don't think so. This stuff is in the court procedure, right? But it's a nervous thing for Trayvon supporters, right? I'm not nervous, but because why would they not be releasing it? Why would the Zimmerman defense, why would they not release it? I mean, if it's full of drugs, then of course they'd want it released. And if it didn't have drugs, they wouldn't really have much reason not to have it released, and the prosecution would want it released. So it makes it look, but you never know until the stuff comes out. But I'm just saying, it's a little hint, a little foreshadowing. Makes it look like there's something in there. Like maybe he was drunk. Maybe he was high on some other drug. Now, I found that weird. I sort of assumed if they said he wasn't on pot, they were emphasizing that because they had released that he was suspended for a pot-related thing, but I have assumed that meant a clean toxicology, that he wasn't on drugs, because I was wondering about that. Because some drugs, it's not, I think all drugs should be legal for people 30 and over, but some drugs make people violent, and some drugs make just particular people violent. Alcohol is a drug that a lot of people have a higher tendency towards violence, though on the other hand, I think Trayvon, at that level of alcohol, then, you're visibly drunk. So I think that's not too likely. But what I was thinking is if it was any kind of a speed drug, if it was an amphetamine, like used to be called crank in California, at least I think everybody has different names for these drugs. Over here we've got this crack cocaine form of it called ice. It's been a big problem. I was talking to this probation officer at a bachelor party a couple months ago, and he was saying there's actually less ice now and cocaine's coming back. Cocaine. So, if he was all high on, on ice, then yeah, I could imagine him circling back, kind of. Totally. And a violent tweaker. Even if he didn't think he was gonna get in a fatal, he wasn't gonna kill him, I could see that. It makes that more plausible. It does. Things like that, and even other milder drugs that have no association with violence in particular, but are associated with doing stupid shit. Stupid ideas, stupid pranks. It comes from inside you still, but it's that would, reduce the whole situation at least to manslaughter, right? And maybe beyond. And the speed drugs, I'm saying, no, yeah, I could see that bolsters that it might have been self-defense. And that becomes more plausible. So, my view changes pretty drastically if the toxicology report comes out and he's on some kind of a speed or violence-related drug. So, on the other hand, that would be great for me in this whole Zimmerman thing, because I am not defending Trayvon for any reason other than there's no evidence to think at this point that this kid doubled back and turned running away and talking to his girlfriend into a deadly murder. He was going to murder someone. He was going to murder this guy for looking at him. Do you know how hard-ass? That's not just ordinary hard-ass. And you're not saying, oh, he's going to punch him and walk away or something like that. That's just ordinary hard-ass. But he was going to kill him and he's focusing on his head. That's just not likely. On the other hand, being cranked up on a bunch of ice or something, that makes that more credible. Now, currently, I don't think that Trayvon doubled back. But it does sound like my first timeline, which I've already corrected, but where I had said that maybe George dropped his keys when he started to run for Trayvon or something. That doesn't seem likely, because the talking started more close to the T. I currently don't think that it was at the T, but it might have been where the bag was dropped. The bag and the fruit juice are interesting because the can was in the bag. The bag made it all the way to near the scene of the murder. It was littered or dropped near the time of the murder. I can imagine that he ran to that dark spot. Zimmerman says he looks back, but Zimmerman's a liar. And goes and then stopped, thinking, okay, he's not going to bug me. He didn't know how serious it was or whatever. In Zimmerman's warped mind. Mind you, I'm sure Zimmerman has a warped mind. None of that changes no matter what. That doesn't mean he goes to jail for murder for having a warped mind. It depends. But anyway, and then maybe he just started walking slowly, but Zimmerman had been running, so he got to the T pretty quickly thereafter, got off the phone, tapping his flashlight or whatever, gets it on, and that could be when Trayvon's like, he's coming near me, and he's here, and then the light goes on, shows him, and he's like, "Hey, dude," and that's why he was interrupted from the flashlight. "Hey, dude," and they're just a few feet apart right then. That would be interesting. How far apart were they when they first spoke? So I'm thinking maybe at the 7-Eleven bag location is where Trayvon was, and that's close enough to say to a guy with a flashlight that's just spotted you, "Hey, why are you following me?" And I think at that point Zimmerman's attack mentality is pursuit his wild dog, such like the dog he got a gun to shoot that he became. Would easily step forward and go, "Oh, hey, well, what are you doing here?" and make a lot of mistakes, as he's wont to do. Because you see, he had the bag the whole time. If he was going to litter the bag, then he would do that when he took the can out and put it in his shirt, which means it happened right there, which might mean, that's where he heard the guy walk behind him or whatever, and he stopped and he said, "This guy's coming." He just decided not to run. That makes me think he's honest. Criminal type kids would still want to run. But see, I had run because I felt I had the right to run and stop watching me. And I stopped too, and because I was innocent. And it's like, okay, what? You want to make a big deal of this? This has to be a 20-minute affair or a 10-minute affair? Okay, what? That's not beating somebody's head on the concrete, though. That's a whole different level. But if the toxicology report comes out, that he was on some violent inducing drug, well, that also doesn't mean he really did it. But you know what? Accidental things like getting caught dead on a drug like that's one of the risks of doing those things. Is it does cause violence, and maybe it'll make it more believable when somebody unjustly kills you, and there'll never be justice. But that's the way it goes, because what we do is we go with the most likely thing. A lot more controversial is going to be, "Oh, we had a couple beers," or this or that. But anyway, that's that.